Today on Tricrow Studios, we do a no metal, no pedal amp head shootout between the Marshall DSL 100HR and the Laney Ironheart 120. If you are looking for metal from either of these amps, take a look in the description down below to put links to videos that I've done, and if I do a high gain or metal shootout between these, I'll put the link in the description there as well. Alright, so there you go. There are the sound samples between the Marshall DSL 100HR and the Laney Ironheart 120. Both of these amps here I would consider in the like entry level for like 100 watt and above series, I guess you would say. One of the reasons behind that is the countries where they're made. Both of these are like England or English, I guess you would say. I don't know. I'm Canadian, so I don't want to say anything inappropriate here. That would be inappropriate. But neither of these are made in England or anything like that. So this is Vietnamese. I believe this is either Vietnamese or Chinese. I can't remember. Someone will say in the comments down below. But chances are, if you're looking to get a 100 watt head, maybe it's your first foray into it, these here might be two options that you're looking at. So that being said, let's talk about what I learned over while doing this amp head shootout here. So first and foremost, as I generally do when I'm shooting out the DSL 100HR here, there's a lot of high end to it, so it can be considered a very bright amp, and there's a lot of low end to it. Now that's again because it's modeled after the JCM 2000, which had that deep switch, and that's just kind of some of the characteristics for this amp. So when you're comparing it to like the Ironheart 120 here, which it can be a bright amp, there's a lot of different options here. Like there's some push-pulls basically for each channel, even though the clean channel and the rhythm channel are shared EQ. There's push-pulls all over the place. You've got your dynamics for your resonance and your tone for your presence. So it can be considered a bright amp, but it's very easy to dial the brightness out on it. The low end is very consistent, a little more than the DSL 100HR, which can be considered, like that low end can kind of be a little flubby at times, and not as pronounced. Is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily, depending on what you're looking for. You're throwing a Strat in here and kind of getting that, like, you know what I mean, really deep type of clean breakup or what have you. You might be taking this all day over any other amp, or most other amps. I shouldn't say any other amp. But yeah, the Ironheart here I think is a little more consistent as far as like EQs go. So like things don't get away from you easily on the Ironheart 120 as they could possibly on the DSL 100HR. Again, I have to say, like, this is not a bad amp or anything like that, and it's not that I favored the 120 over the DSL 100HR. It's just this is EQ'd a certain way, and this is a little more, I guess you could say, has a flatter response if you have everything set at noon, whereas there's a little more, it's a little brighter and there's a little more low end to it. As far as options go, anyone and their dog who owns a DSL 100HR will tell you can actually get the like MIDI control switch that I have that one for the JVM 410H. And you can actually change this into a 4-channel amp. Now, all 4 channels do share the same EQ, but it can be a 4-channel amp because you have OD1, OD2, the clean and crunch channel as well, right? But one thing you do have to say about the Ironheart 120 is it has an internal boost, and as well, again, it has all of the push-pulls here to kind of shift the tones that you have available to them. And there's it's a 3-channel amp with a boost that it can be added. So I guess at that point you can say it's comparable. I mean, it's still a 3-channel amp with a boost, but with that boost taken in and taken out, you can get a little more combinations on sound, I guess you would say. I did want to note as well, I love reverb, and both of these amps here do have it. So you were hearing reverb. I know there's a lot of people that are like, I want to hear the amp itself, not reverb. It's not a pedal. It's the reverb that's actually built into the amps. What's really cool is the DSL 100HR has, for the Ultra channel and the Classic channel, they each have their own reverb. Which is a little more handy than just the reverb that's built in overall for all three channels on the Ironheart. It just gives you a little more control. The reverb on the Ironheart 120 I find is a little more consistent than the reverb that is on the DSL 100HR. However, that reverb, if you're looking for actual reverb in it and you put it up past like 1:30 or like 2 o'clock, it does start to get very pleasing to the ear, and it's not something that's just lost in the mix. But yeah, that's kind of hard to totally go over all of the features for the amp, or the amps. But again, it also has a wattage control, like whereas this has, like, you can bring it down to 50 watts. This one here, you can actually, it's a potentiometer. So I guess you could say it's somewhat like an attenuator, like something that I have something similar on the Rocker Verb 100 Mark III. It's not something I use. I usually stay away from it, just because I like having a little more headroom, rather than like cutting things up or cutting things down, as it kind of, it's just my ears, it's kind of how it, I take it and how I hear it when I'm using it, so it's something I generally stay away from, but it doesn't mean that it's a negative thing from the amp. It's only positive. You know what I mean? At that point, you may be looking to use either of these amps as something in a bedroom level that you can also take to like a club or what have you, and still have that headroom when you're in a club. So really, all I gotta say without trying to without actually rambling on about both of these amps, both of them are fantastic. There's a 50-watt there's a 20-watt version. I don't think there's a 50-watt. There's a 20-watt version of the DSL, and then there's a 60-watt version, and I think like a 15-watt, a really weird one for the Ironheart. Both of those would probably be fantastic choices as well. You know, when you're cutting the wattage, you're cutting down some of the headroom. But a lot of people out there, I mean, you'll be able to play with a drummer and stuff like that. And that's usually a lot of the concern when getting either of these types of amps here. Anyway, I've been Ryan from Tricrow Studios. Talked a lot, and I say good day.